All right, Sydney Brown back again. So now we're going to start with why a writing journal is essential. I've got 10 reasons, and I hope you follow along, and I hope some of this resonates with you. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and that you like the videos, and that you interact in the comments, if you will, because that interaction and you subscribing and watching the videos also helps me keep this content free on the channel. So I appreciate all of your support. So number one in why have a writing journal. Number one is reflection. A writing journal serves kind of like a mirror, reflecting your writing process. Now, and progress for that matter, but it helps you recognize your strengths, areas of improvement, things like that. As you go through, and I believe I mentioned this, when you go back and you look at it and you see where you started to where you are today, whatever your today is at the time, it can be amazing. It really can, because then you find that you're totally remotivated. So sometimes if you're lacking motivation, go back and look through your writing journal. Number two, track progress. Having this journal will help you track your writing progress over time. It provides a sense of accomplishment. That's kind of what I was just saying. But it makes you feel better about yourself. And it's not that you have poor confidence, but when you see something and you see the improvement, then there's no leaving that open to if you do have self-confidence issues. A lot of the times life beats us down, and we really need to find the opportunities to feel better about ourselves. So going through something where you can see where you were and where you are now, that's something that can really be encouraging. Number three, and this is absolutely something that is your main thing at first, especially. It's an idea repository. So you want to be able to, every time an idea comes, go write it down, write it down, write it down. You may have a page of nothing but ideas and then a page of entries, like journal entries. However you set it up is going to be your personal preference. Some people are very organized and they want everything very meticulously organized. Some people will just here's my journal entry, here's an idea, and if that chaos makes sense to them, then it's exactly as it should be. Now, I'm somewhere in the middle. I lean a little bit more toward organized. So I will have my ideas here, and then I'll have journal entries, and then I'll have word count and different things like that. So we'll talk about that as well in the writing community, which is absolutely free for you to be in. So make sure that if you haven't already, that you join the Writers and Aspiring Writers free community. Oh, I'm sorry, it's on Facebook. But having an idea repository is absolutely vital, because once that creativity kind of like the walls go down and the ideas start to flow, you're just going to realize just at random times, oh my gosh, idea, just constantly. And there's no way to keep up with all of it, and you will not remember it. So don't think that you will, because I've lost so many great ideas that I didn't write down. Because I didn't write them down, and I'm like, oh, it's such a great idea. Obviously, I'll remember that one. Man, I didn't, then you spend all that time just beating yourself up because it was such a good idea. So number four, self-coaching. Doing these journals, it really is because you go back and review what you've done. It helps you understand and see the trends and what your writing habits are, any patterns, preferences. It lets you see it for yourself, and it's not someone else telling you, you're info dumping or you're doing this or you're doing that. It's you seeing it, and it's self-coaching. It's a really good thing. Number five, experimentation. Now, what I mean by that is when you're journaling about writing. Now, you've got time to journal about your personal thoughts and your feelings and stuff like that over here in a different time, but this is journaling about your writing journey, your writing only. So in that, you want to, maybe just jot a paragraph down, maybe about, I wonder if I could do third person narrative, or something like that. Let me see if I could, maybe I've always done past tense, and I want to experiment with present tense, first person present tense. And when you're making those kind of switches, you really need to just be able to kind of play with it, and not feel pressured, and not necessarily do it like, boom, here, I'm changing it from this book to this book. I'm going to make this massive change in my mindset for writing. You will develop into being able to go back and forth easily. But at the beginning, most people will actually, go from sentence to sentence, or even within the same sentence, they'll get all the tenses confused. So you may just want to write a paragraph and then analyze, how often when you just casually write a paragraph, do you mess up your tenses? So it's one of those really great things to kind of experiment, get to know how you're doing it, be able to pinpoint what's wrong, and do your own self-fixing. Number 6, motivation. So when you go through and you review your journal entries, it really does, and it, for me at least, and I most of the people that I've talked to have said similar things. It boosts their motivation. It reignites, a spark. It gets you revved up again. You literally can see the ideas you had like a week ago or a month ago or a year ago, whatever it is. And you're like, oh my gosh, I never did anything with that idea. And then boom, you're just on fire, ready to go get that going. So always go back and review. Number 7, overcoming writer's block. Now, writer's block is one of those things. I think the term is overused. I think that sometimes it's lack of focus. It's just lack of direction, period. But when you have a writing journal and you're logging your word count or your chapter count or your, whatever you're doing at the time, just log it in whatever way that makes sense to you. A lot of people will do their word count, or they'll, if it's poetry you're doing or whatever, just track it however you want to. But when you do that, just getting your mind into the world of writing will then allow the walls and your, that pressure we put on ourselves to perform, it will allow the walls to go down a little bit. And then you'll just be like, oh gosh, yeah, I could do that. I can do that. It really does help. And number 8, memory aid. Having your journal will help you remember important details, character development, plot ideas, storylines. Those are really important, because I find that, and this is more in fiction than memoirs necessarily, but it will also carry over. But if you've got an idea and your character, let's say it's a memoir and you're the character, and you've got, a significant other in your story, you need to develop their character, which may not mean a lot to you yet, but it will, because the reader doesn't know you yet, and the reader doesn't know your significant other yet. And so you have to develop the character of yourself and your significant other as you tell the story. And you don't want to just info dump, this is who I am, this is who they are, and this is what happened, because that's not, showing a story to your reader. That's just basically writing a book report, and that's not what people want to read. So as you tell your story, just pour it out of you however you want. But then when you go into it, and you develop the characters, basically what you're doing is telling just a little bit more about yourself and about your significant other in this case. then your reader is like, oh, okay, so that person bites their nails. Okay, so the protagonist, you, this person is afraid of failing, you know, whatever it is. It's a great way to develop character. But if you just do it in your head, you it's just not going to be successful. It just isn't. You must write it down, and your journal, your writing journal, is exactly the place to do stuff like that. And then as you go back and review it again, you can say, okay, yeah, I already told about this character trait, and then I can later tell about this. And you're just building your characters as you go through. Number 9, self-expression. So self-expression, obviously we know what that means in itself, but when you're in your writing journal, this is your personal place. You know, this is where you can tell, it's just like a diary, you know, but it's for writing specifically. But it's where you're going to be able to, you know, be introspective and just kind of reflect on your progress as writing and what you want to write. Anything that comes out of your mind, your heart, your spirit, that has to do with writing, just drop it into your journal, and it allows you that self-expression. And then finally, number 10, discipline. You know, regular journaling, you know, and I'm going to, through the course of this, we're going to have, you know, your writing time for your memoir. Your first months, you're probably going to be going into a lot of therapeutic journaling and just reflective journaling and writing your memories, just pouring it all out. We're going to go through a lot of different exercises, but in doing that, it's much less structured. It's just enjoying it. It's not about pressure. It's just about, you know, putting closure to some things. And as you go through that, you're going to have a few different things that you're journaling in. And that's okay, because it helps you keep them organized and separate. And then having that discipline of 1, 2, 3 different things that you can write in, it will encourage overall self-discipline. Now, if you're already a super self-disciplined person, you may not even be fazed by this. If you're not yet, if you're kind of like squirrel, I'm somewhere in the middle, as you can probably tell by now. But if you're squirrely, then you're going to potentially feel like there's a lot of rules here. And I don't want you to feel that, but I do want you to know that, yes, while I'm giving you guidelines and rules, you don't have to follow them. And I'm not the memoir police. So as you go through things, you're the only one that you're going to have to answer to. You really are. So setting yourself up for self-discipline will help you succeed. And I hope that you come through this with flying colors. But wherever you land is exactly where you should have. So don't beat yourself up. Don't stress over it. Let it be a thing that you enjoy. But having this writing journal is something that you will want to have, even if you never do journal entries or character development or any of the other things we just talked about, even if it's just to keep, you know, a piece of paper ready for all the ideas that you come up with, because that in itself is enough to make it worth it. All right, let's move on. And I hope that you will comment below and let me know what you liked the best or what questions you have.